Okay, we are live. I'm going to give it just a few seconds for everybody to kind of roll in and start viewing the live stream. We are live on YouTube. Super excited to be discussing today's topic, which is TypeScript, zkApps with TypeScript and SnarkyJS with Mina Protocol. Today I have the DevRel of Mina Protocol here with us, Angus. Angus, how are you doing today?
I'm doing brilliantly. We've got nice weather for once in Scotland, so it's nice to be here, though.
Nice, awesome. I'm sure that's a rare occasion up there, but you got to be blessed with it when you can be, right?
Exactly. It was actually quite rainy earlier, but it's kind of turned into some nice sunshine now. So
perfect, nice. So today, as we are going through Mina Protocol, first thing I want to do is have Angus introduce yourself. Go ahead, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into Web3? How did you end up getting into Mina Protocol? And tell us about your experience working with Mina.
So that's a good question. How did I get into Web3? I've been working in Web3 / the blockchain space for probably about 5 or 6 years now, which when you talk to some people, it's not a very long time. When you talk to others, it sounds like decades, right? So I originally got into blockchain. I was working as a software engineer for science research, mainly doing high performance computing for high. So there was a lot of compute involved, and I kind of found out about these people who we were doing some work with GPU clusters, and some heard about these kind of people who were buying GPUs to build kind of bedroom mining rigs. Like you buy 6 GPUs and you attach them to one motherboard and you run it in your bedroom. And I was like, what's going on here? So then I kind of went down the rabbit hole. I'd heard of Bitcoin before, but then I realized that, okay, right, there's this, smart contracts and there's this distributed kind of decentralized element that I found really cool and interesting. So I made the decision to basically pursue that interest. And I started kind of running community events and trying to teach people about what blockchain is in the place that I was living at the time, which was the city of London. And so from there, I kind of, got to know a lot more about the industry, met a lot of people, and ended up doing developer relations for a company called Block One, which built the EOS.io blockchain software, which powered the EOS blockchain. Some of you may have heard of them. So I was doing that for 2 or 3 years. And then since then, I have been doing developer relations for a number of different projects. One of them a kind of a DAO, but not that similar to Developer DAO, but a DAO that was focused on NFT infrastructure. And then I've now joined Mina Foundation to do developer relations and kind of tell people about the Mina blockchain and SnarkyJS, which is the smart contract language. So
awesome. Just to touch back on it, I love when people say, I've been here for X amount of years, and to some that's a long time, to some it's not so long. I feel like your time in Web3 should be like calculated in dog years almost, because the amount of experience and the work you do in a year is it ages quick. So yeah, absolutely.
I think there's 2 elements there that really add to it. One of them is the fact that it's like when you talk about working with distributed, whenever you start work, someone's already at the end of their day. Whenever you want to log off, someone just starting to ask you a lot of questions. So it's kind of like non-stop in that way. So it kind of feels like work kind of never really starts or finishes. I don't know, but
yeah, absolutely. So then right into it, tell us what is Mina? What is Mina Protocol?
So Mina Protocol is an L1 blockchain that is built from the ground up using zero knowledge proofs. So zero knowledge technology is something which exists in the world of cryptography, and it kind of is quite a young nascent technology, I would say. Some of the math and the crypto has been around for a while, but we're seeing a lot of innovation in new applications and kind of implementations of this idea of zero knowledge cryptography. And so there's been various uses of zero knowledge technology as it pertains to blockchain technology, and it gets used in a number of different ways. But the way that Mina Protocol uses zero knowledge is kind of uses it from the inside, ground up. So the whole blockchain, all the transactions, it's all verified using zero knowledge cryptography, and that's indeed what kind of it powers the smart contract layer as well. So when you verify things and check that things have run correctly, it all uses zero knowledge proofs. But then also it gives developers a toolkit to design their own applications and configure the kind of zero knowledge, what we call circuits, to produce the zero knowledge proofs. So you can now not just use zero knowledge cryptography in one particular way that has been provided to you via software or some sort of application, but you can build your own and provide those applications and uses of zero knowledge proofs to your users as a developer. So
okay, excellent. So then you mentioned SnarkyJS. Tell us about SnarkyJS.
So SnarkyJS is actually a TypeScript library. So if you want to change the name of it, SnarkyTS, you can probably do a Mina improvement proposal, write one, and explain why you think that should be the case. But SnarkyJS is a TypeScript library, and it exposes a kind of an interface for developers to build applications that it plugs down into the code that implements what I talked about earlier, which is cryptography and something called a proof system, which is something that you can use to create these zero knowledge proofs and verify them. So that's all quite hardcore on the engineering side, and certainly hardcore on the mathematics side. So SnarkyJS kind of plugs into that engine that powers the Mina blockchain and allows developers to basically write some TypeScript, not have to worry about the crypto and the math too much. It's supposed to make things easier for application developers to focus on things like providing apps for their users and identifying use cases and kind of building products, right? So instead of worrying about low-level implementation and math and stuff. So it's totally designed to make things easier for developers to use zero knowledge proofs.
Okay, excellent. So then you're using TypeScript. I guess my next question to that is obviously because you're not doing it I guess what you would call the traditional way of setting up smart contracts. How do you maintain security and privacy with Mina Protocol?
That's a good question. So I think security and privacy have been identified as key ways in which zero knowledge cryptography can improve the offering of blockchain technology, the overall offering. And so SnarkyJS and smart contracts are verified. So you run the smart contract not on the blockchain like Ethereum. So you don't upload your smart contract to the blockchain. You upload something called what we call a verification key. And so the way that you verify someone has run a zkApp correctly is that you produce this proof, right? So when you run the zkApp, you produce a proof, and you can verify that proof using this verification key, which is uploaded to the network. And so in that way, you're not doing the compute on chain, which is what happens in other blockchain systems, some of them anyway. You run the computation off chain, but then you verify the computation using the zero knowledge cryptography, right? So this proof that you create can be verified using the verification key through a cryptographic mechanism. And so in that way, you have security, because if someone tries to run a smart contract or cheat the system in some way, then the cryptography doesn't give a valid verification. And it's also good for privacy. As I said, so you don't run the smart contracts on the chain. So you don't necessarily have to send data to nodes to run your smart contract somewhere. You run the smart contract on the client side. So you can keep developers have a lot more flexibility about what data they expose and make public. So basically, the inputs that you put into a smart contract are kind of private by default. So you don't send them along with the proof to verify the results. So you can specify if you want arguments or like input data to be public, but then it gives you, the developer, a lot more choice about what to keep private and what to make public.
Okay, excellent. So then I did have a question here. The question was prerequisites, and it is right here. If you were to get into using Mina or wanting to build with Mina, what do you think are the basic prerequisites of a developer to have in order to use Mina?
That is also a good question. I think any developer who wants to learn something new has to come in with a sense of adventure and a willingness to learn, a good attitude. But apart from that, you'll need to know kind of how to navigate the command line and kind of install bits of software to kind of run and configure your projects, build, run, and configure your projects. So you need to know some command line, and it would be good to know JavaScript or TypeScript and how those kind of languages work and the kind of project structures that exist. Also, if you want to build a zkApp that has kind of a functioning front end, then it would be good to know a front end kind of framework like React, for example. So there's some kind of bits and pieces, some scaffolding that is provided with the CLI tool called zkApps CLI. But if you want to customize and interact with these smart contracts, these zkApps smart contracts, then it would be good to know some kind of that front end as well.
Okay, perfect. So let me go ahead and recap some things because I know some people may be just joining the live stream. We're here with Angus, the DevRel of Mina Protocol, discussing Mina Protocol. And one of the things that we're actually talking about is obviously building zkApps with TypeScript and SnarkyJS. And one of the things I want to do right now is talk a little bit about that upcoming hackathon. So we have a hackathon that we're working with in tandem in partnership with Developer DAO and Mina Protocol. And so I want to cover some of the details on the Mina Protocol hackathon. And so to kick that off, the hackathon really gets kicked off with this workshop. We're actually going to be starting the actual hackathon tomorrow, so Tuesday, 27th of June, and it's going to be a 1 week fully remote hackathon. Some of the prizes are pretty exceptional prizes. We have an overall winners, first, second, and third place. First place will be awarded 1,000 USDC plus 2,500 Mina token. Second place will be awarded 800 USDC with 2,000 Mina token. And then third place will be awarded 500 USDC with 1,000 Mina tokens. Some other prize pools we have are the top 3 technical blogs. Top 3 technical blogs are going to be awarded 200 USDC plus 300 Mina. And then the top 3 starter kits are going to be awarded 200 USDC with 300 Mina. And then we also have a code award, which is specific to Developer DAO. So I believe this is to the Developer DAO members. At Developer DAO, we're going to award the builders an elevated governance in the DAO via code token. For all verified submissions will be awarded 5,000 code. It's a 5,000 code token pool. Split across all submissions, and then non-members who submit will be awarded 400 code token. This is actually pretty cool because 400 code token is what's rewarded to be a DAO member. So if you participate and you actually submit your project into this hackathon, you're basically given free membership into Developer DAO, which is pretty freaking awesome. I actually love that. Now, to talk about some of the office hours and everything that will be going on, office hours will be given Wednesday, June 28th, from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. EST. That's roughly about, I think that's 6 p.m. UTC. And then you have Friday on the 30th, which is the same time, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. EST. That's 6 p.m. EST. And then you have Monday, which is the last day before submission requirement, July 3rd. And that is 1 p.m. 2 p.m. EST, which is 6 p.m. UTC. And then from there, so do you want to cover some of the ideas or anything? Do you have any like major ideas that I think that that Mina and Developer DAO were probably looking forward to being built during the hackathon?
That is a good question. I think we aren't particularly looking for any. We don't want to kind of box people in with any particular directions. I think one of the things that is really cool about SnarkyJS that we usually say to people is one of the features that is really kind of novel is the idea of doing recursion. So kind of using proofs as input arguments to create new proofs. That's something that I'll talk a bit more about in the presentation. But usually we say recursion is really the kind of one of the really cutting edge features that we have available with SnarkyJS. So that's something that if you're kind of trying to figure out something cool to do, is to think about how you can apply recursion.
Okay, excellent. So I have a good question here. Is right here. What is considered a submission? Must it be a fully working app to count as a submission for the hackathon?
So I think I don't know exactly what the rules are. Usually when we're talking about hackathon, there's quite a tight deadline, and sometimes people don't get things finished off. So I think you kind of have to use your own judgment about what you want to try to do in the time that you have available, which is different for different people because some people might be able to commit more or less time than others. I think if you can build something that works, that will be viewed with you know, as a higher chance of being able to be eligible for a prize, I think. And, you know, I think as a developer, it's usually quite good practice to try to make things work, right? So we would like to see working apps, but equally, if you have worked really hard on something and you can't get it to work, then I would say you should probably still consider submitting or maybe rolling back to something that that you did get working, and then kind of let us know what you tried to do that didn't work. Also, there is the prizes available for the technical blogs, which Patrick mentioned earlier. So I would say if you were trying really hard to get something working, but you just couldn't for the life of you get it to work, what I would say is you could maybe try writing a blog about it instead of entering it, or alongside entering it in the competition. You could write a blog about what you did and didn't try, and then you might be eligible for like a prize that way. And that's also really, really useful for us as well to see where people couldn't do things and didn't have, you know, the right resources or couldn't find the right information in time to do what they wanted. So,
yeah, I think a good answer for this too, the way I typically try to summarize it is obviously function over form. You know, try to get something as functional as possible. You know, make an MVP of anything you can. Obviously, if you're very close to a fully functioning app, great. Submit what you have and hope for the best kind of thing. Don't spend too much time on form. Really spend more focus on on creating something that's functional. And I think that's also a good use case for the available office hours too. It's like if you have a really strong idea, but it may not be realistic in the time frame, I think that's a good idea to hop into one of the office hours and say, hey, I have this idea. I'm not sure if it's executable in the time frame, and just open a discussion for it. Also, if you have a really big idea, it's a good way to start creating some team members to help you execute it too. I mean, if some additional people love your idea and they want to help you build it, I think that's also an excellent idea is to bring people into a team. So then the office hours, with the office hours, are they being held in Discord?
I believe so. There are 2 office hours to speak of. There is going to be office hours in the developer DAO Discord, and the times and details of those will be shared with you shortly if they haven't been already. And there are also office hours that we do that we do on the Mina Protocol Discord as well. So there are 2 this week, I believe. One earlier on, one later on the day on Wednesday. And so that's a good chance as well to come and ask questions and talk to people about ideas and things if you can't get them to work. So you do have to be in the Mina Protocol server to go to those office hours. So I would say probably join both Discord servers if possible.
Yes. Yeah, so and I believe you can actually get a link to the Discord for Mina Protocol at minaprotocol.com. For those that are not actively inside of the DAO or for developer DAO, you can actually find the link to Mina Protocol's Discord at www.minaprotocol.com. And be able to find their Discord and join their office hours. Absolutely. And then one of the other questions that I had were the sorry. I actually had an additional note for the guidelines for submission guidelines. Understanding, working app, non-working app, or anything, there are a few things that must be added to the submission submitted projects. Is it must have your license on the submission. So like inside of the GitHub repo, you want to make sure that you've added a license to the repo. The README is where you want to explain what the code does. So make sure that if you do submit anything using your Discord link, you want to make sure that you have submitted it with a README that fully explains what the repo, what the code base does. And then lastly, the repos must be public upon submissions. Do you have any additional things that you want to add to that?
I think the point that you made about the README is very important. Usually it's a good idea to make things as clear as possible. That being, put lots of comments in your code. The easier that you make it to understand, the more chance there is that we will be able to understand it, what you're doing, and then kind of judge it accordingly. So I think commenting your code is a good idea, and making it obvious how to run, install, build, and run your application, and how to use it. And if you have things that are difficult to understand, putting in diagrams or explaining that in the README as well, making it really easy to understand what you're trying to do and how you've solved problems and how your code works, that will go a long way, I think, in the judging process. Because even if you've done something really, really cool and it's hard to understand, then it's possible that you might get overlooked because judges just might not be able to understand what you've been trying to do, right? And there's only a limited amount of time that we can devote to each project, right? So we're not going to put massive amounts of effort into understanding what you've done if it's not clearly explained, okay? So that's a very good point to reiterate.
Yeah, perfect. Do you want to go ahead and actually show us how does installing the zkApps CLI work, and maybe some nuance elements for SnarkyJS or anything like that?
Yes. So I am prepared. I've prepared today a presentation, well, kind of a live demo, to show you just how easy it is to get up and running. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to install the zkApps CLI and get started with SnarkyJS. We're going to look at how to deploy an application. So deploying it onto the Berkeley testnet. At present, the zkApp functionality is only available on the Berkeley testnet. It's not available on mainnet. But we're going to look at how to deploy, and then how one way to interact with the zkApp. I'm going to tell you a bit more about the other ways that you can interact with the zkApps once you've deployed them. And so this will require quite a few different window switches. So I'm hoping that I can do this all in a way that will kind of make sense. So if I open up a terminal, here we go. Right, it took a while to load. I'm going to share my screen right now. So I think you should be able to see a terminal window. Can you?
Excellent. Yep.
I'm seeing from the chat that people can see it, and also from you,
Yeah.
Patrick. So all we have to do to get started with SnarkyJS is do an npm install. We're going to want to use the G flag to install it globally. And then we're going to type in zkApp-CLI. Now, I've already got it installed, right? So this is probably going to go quite quickly. Just in the meantime, I've actually never done this live, I don't think. So I might make some funny typing errors. So apologies. But that just shows you that this is actually indeed happening live. So that is the zkApp CLI installed. What you can do is if you type zk, it will give you some helpful, here's a little cool bit of artwork, and it will give you some helpful documentation about what you can do with it. Also, if you press zkv, then it will be the version that you're running. So that will be useful if you need troubleshooting help, probably into the future, but certainly zkv and zksystem are commands that you can use to kind of print out information about your system, and it can be helpful in troubleshooting. So once you've installed the zkApp CLI, you call it by using the command zk, and to make your first project, you just type in the flag project, and then the name of your project. So I'm going to make a project called DD for Developer DAO. Actually, I'll use the correct representation. So what this will do, if I activate, will create a project called D_D. And it's going to ask us, do we want to create an accompanying UI project too? So this is the scaffolding that I was talking about earlier, where you can set up for one of these projects if you're familiar with Next, Svelte, or Nuxt. And so these are all nice save. These are all React, and so you can get some kind of scaffolding and boilerplate code if you want to create a React project. So I'm going to select none for now, just to keep things simple. So what you'll see is some things happening where it's going to set some things up for my project, including a Git repository and some of the bits and pieces that you need, and it's installing the kind of the packages, the requirements, right? At present,
while it's doing that, one of the questions I'll ask too is like, is there are you going to have to get any specific token or anything like that in order to be able to operate your zk? If so, where do you go? How does that work?
That is a good question. You will need
Are you actually pulling from a specific faucet or anything like that?
Hello. Sorry,
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
there we go.
I think I just disconnected. So
Okay.
I
I thought you forgot what token you're using.
no, I've been having apologies everyone. I actually have been having some connectivity issues today, which is ridiculous because I'm hardwired. But I'm gonna go ahead and stop this npm install. Right, I'm just
You're
gonna
good.
get rid of that and start it again. The live technology, eh? Right. So
Oh yeah, of course.
we'll start it again, and I will answer that question, which is, do you need to get some sort of tokens from somewhere? Yes, you need to claim testnet tokens, testnet Mina tokens from a faucet. This, here we go. And so I will continue the answer to that question. Also, I
Yes.
will be able to provide tokens to people on an ad hoc basis if necessary for the purposes of the hackathon. But then also what I wanted to show you was, right, so now that we have created our project, we're going to change into it, right? And it's saying here, if you want to set up Git for your project, there's some commands there to do it, to set up to like a remote Git origin. So if we go into this project, right, what we do next is this is so when you're actually doing development, you might not go straight to this step, but what we're going to do is we're going to deploy the app. So what if I show you the files that are in here, right? It's a fairly standard project structure, and if I show you the files that are in the source folder already, so this is the default files that appear when you create a project using zk project. So there's kind of an example in here called add.typescript, and there's also interact.ts. So we've actually already got a zkApps set up just by doing zk project. Now, obviously, when you're building your project, you might want to get started straight away, but for the purposes of demonstration, right, what I will do is I will use the zk command deploy. Actually, I won't. You need to config first. I don't know what happens if you try and deploy without doing config, but I'm not going to try and find out now. So all we do is zk config, and then it will come up with this. So this is where we're configuring the network that we're going to deploy to. So we're going to create the alias. So this is like the name of the network that we want to deploy to. You can make it anything, but I'm going to call it Berkeley just because we're deploying to the Berkeley testnet, and that's what it's called. It's now saying, give me the graph URL, GraphQL URL. I don't usually talk through these things when I'm doing them, so I'm getting my words mixed up. Right, so here we go. I've copied this, and this link will be available to you everywhere. Hopefully you shouldn't struggle to find it, which is the GraphQL API URL for minaexplorer.com, which is a block explorer. So we enter that in, and we're going to set 0.1 as a transaction fee to use when we want to deploy our zkApp. So now, this part of the demonstration, it's asking me if I want to use a stored account, which I have already to deploy the zkApp. If you say use a different account, then you can create a new fee pair key pair. So this is creating a Mina key pair for you, like a wallet, although it's just a key pair, right? And so what that'll do is it'll store this key pair on your machine, and you can use that. You can claim tokens to be paid to this key pair on the faucet, and you can use that to deploy new zkApps when you use this, the zkApps CLI to deploy zkApps. Because otherwise there's a pitfall that you can fall into, which I myself have gotten a couple of accounts bricked. But so when you use this option to create the new fee pair, then I can create an alias for this account. I'll call it DD. So this is what you will see when you create a new key pair, right? Which is you get this link here which says if this is a testnet request t Mina, which is the testnet tokens, at faucet.minaprotocol.com. So that's the faucet, and it's put your address in there already, right? So all you have to do is copy paste this link and visit it, and you'll be ready to go. However, there is on the testnet a block time of probably 3 or 6 minutes, so we don't want to wait for that now. So I'm gonna go to example that I prepared earlier, right? So this is one that I've kind of already configured, and it uses the wallet that I've already funded. So what we can do now is see the next step in the process. Usually, so if you were doing this, you would wait for your wallet to be funded, you'd go make yourself a cup of tea or something, and then you'd come back and you would use the zkdeploy command, right? So you don't just click zkdeploy, you want to put in zkdeploy and then the alias of that you declared for the network that you said in the zkconfig, right? So I think I called this one Burke due to short-handedness. So I think. So now we're kind of going through these steps where it'll build your project. It's saying it's going to use the add smart contract, which is the default smart contract that is there when you use zk project to build a new project. And now it's asking me to confirm we're sending it to, we're using the dev wallet that I have set up. We are sending it to the GraphQL API for Berkeley that's run on minaexplorer.com. And it's going to use the add smart contract. It's going to deploy that smart contract, right? So I'm going to type in yes. And here we go. So what we're seeing is deploy transaction sent. Your smart contract will be live or updated as soon as the transaction is included in a block. So then it shows you this kind of link to Mina Explorer to check out the transaction to see when your updated or newly added smart contract will be available when this transaction is included in a block.
Excellent.
So that's you deployed your first zk app. And so it might be worth at this point as well just reiterating that when you deploy a zk app, and there's a slide deck or like a diagram that we have to kind of explain this. And so if anyone is struggling to conceptualize this or kind of get intuition about it, then please come on and ask us on Discord, and I can talk you through it in one of the voice chat channels on the DD server or somewhere else, right? But what we're doing is when you build this zk app, right, you write some code, and then what happens is the SnarkyJS software transpiles your code into this kind of it generates this thing called the verification key. And so then what you do is you send this verification key to the network, and what you do is you provide everyone who wants to use your app a copy of your code, so they get the code that you've written, and if they run it in a way that you've specified according to what we call some rules that we call constraints, then they produce this proof, right? It's a string. It's a bit like when you put something in a hash function, you get a string out, right? And the way that you verify two pieces of data are the same is you put them through the hash function and they give out the same string, right? So that's how you know these two pieces of data are the same. The zk app, you output this proof and then you verify the proof with the verification key. So if the proof is valid, you send this proof to the network. A node on the network will run the Mina or software and say, here's the verification key, here's the proof. Is the proof valid? And it'll say yes or no, right? So that's what we've done when we deploy the zk app. Is you've created the software, but you've sent the verification key to the network. So I could take your code, change it around a bit, right? Run it and create a proof, right? But if I change the code, the verification key changes, right? So there'll be a different verification key. The proof won't be valid with your original verification key. I've got a new
Okay.
verification key, but it's not on the network, right? So I can verify proofs all I want, but it won't be on the network. So you can't verify the proof. The proofs won't be valid on the network, and that's how the whole thing works, right? That's how you can, it doesn't get included in a block and it doesn't go on the blockchain if it's not a valid proof according to the verification key that you've set when you deployed. So now what I was going to do is we're going to leave terminal land for a minute. Unless, Patrick, do you want to say anything in the meantime?
No, yeah. Honestly, I mean, to be honest, this is easy. It's a pretty easy process. It's kind of straightforward, and I can see this as a very strong way of having people that are, they've got their background in JavaScript and kind of find an easier path into the Web3 world. And so many people have to like dive into things like Solidity and Rust and everything to really get into Web3. But this is a process where I can see I can see a lot of front end devs that have a lot of experience on the Web2 side kind of navigate their way into Web3. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, if you thought that was easy, wait till you see the code.
Okay, sweet.
But it's interesting that you mentioned generally in zk, we're talking about things like lower level languages that, take quite a long time to learn and obviously longer to master, like Rust, or people implementing things in other functional programming languages like OCaml as well. Obviously, that requires kind of a different way of thinking than you might be used to if you've just picked up development from a kind of non-academic perspective. And I think there's different approaches to doing things as well. And so I think generally, sometimes developers aren't the best at explaining things to people who don't understand things as well as they do. So there's people have been kind of figuring things out as they go along, right? And how to implement and provide functionality. But then also they've kind of, up to this point as well, built software for other people who know as much about cryptography and software engineering as they do. So I think when we look at the code, you're going to see that it's been built to be easier to understand and to develop apps with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut my window. Oops.
Go for it.
I split the pane there.
Bro.
I think
I've got you pulled down for now. So if you need to reconfigure, go for it.
It's a control command issue, right? When I go from like one operating system to the next, I usually use Linux, right? And then now I'm on Mac OS. So Control D and Command D do different things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to present again. I'm going to present my VS Code window now, which I use, which is obviously a very, very nice piece of software. If I can find it in.
As you're going through that, I'm just going to give everybody an update real quick for those that may have just joined. We are going over TypeScript and SnarkyJS for building zkApps with the DevRel of Mina Protocol. This is also a kickoff announcement specifically for the Developer DAO Mina Protocol Hackathon, which actually starts tomorrow. If you are able to view the comments, in the comments, we have several links available for details on the Mina Protocol Hackathon. It is a 1-week hackathon with at 10,000 USDC worth of awards, and that will be given out at the end of the hackathon. Check out those documentation to see what the requirements are. Feel free to form a team. There are available hours in both the Developer DAO Discord as well as the Mina Protocol Discord. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up this stream. Excellent. Are you able to increase the font size a little bit here? Where it's a little small, I think, for everybody to view. I think if you're on your Mac, you can hit Command++. There you go. Woo. There we go. Perfect.
Is that a bit too big? Is this a good happy medium?
No, I think that's a happy medium. If anybody is in the chat, can tell us if you guys can see that. If you can't see that, let us know as we're going through it.
I can do one more.
Yeah.
Also, someone's asking
one
about
more
the
might be good.
Verification
Perfect.
key
Go ahead.
process again, which we can go through after we go through the code, but I will definitely
Perfect.
do that. And also, Patrick, you might need to remind me if I do forget. But this is
I'll keep it on the board.
so this is the add smart contract. Apologies if my theme is difficult to see things. I usually kind of go quite off the beaten track with themes and kind of customization of things. And some people have said to me before, oh, you should just use the industry standard ones. But this is the add smart contract that is created when you use the zk project command, right? And so at the top here, we're importing some modules from SnarkyJS. And so this is what a smart contract in SnarkyJS looks like. So what we're doing is, oops, I'll probably try and get rid of that. What we're doing is we're calling our smart contract add, and we're extending the class, the smart contract class. And so I need to be careful. If I mouse over anything too long, it's going to give you a ton of additional information. So one of the cool things about SnarkyJS is, right, it's got quite good integration with IntelliSense in VS Code. And so if you mouse over things, it'll give you a ton of information and tell you where things are defined and give you the doc strings and stuff. So that is useful if you get lost. Now, what we have here is the decorator at state. So state variables is what we call the data which is stored on chain. You don't have much on chain storage. You've got like 8 fields, I believe. And so what we're doing here is we're saying, and so this was another thing to mention as well, is the concept of fields, which I will tell you more about in the slideshow, which we'll do at some point. But the development in SnarkyJS is you have to do it all with these things called fields, right? And so what field stands for is an element in a finite field, which is a mathematical thing, which basically means here's a big range of numbers that here's a finite field which your number can be in, right? And so then basically what happens, if you get to the end of it, it kind of rolls back and goes to the start and starts counting up again. So these this idea of a finite field element is implemented in SnarkyJS. So you just have a type that you can use to kind of represent these field elements, and that's what you would use in the place of like normal variables that you want to put numbers into. And so it's got some mathematical information here about which curve it's using, which field it's using. So, but basically, if you want to use any data types, you have to build them out of fields in SnarkyJS. So here we're saying we're going to have a state variable, so something on chain that we can store a state in. It's going to be of type field. It's going to be called num, and then yeah, it's going to be of type field. So that's kind of declaring what the state storage is going to look like. And so these state variables are public. There's an init function which initializes the smart contract. And so here we're going to set num to 1. But as you can see here, we're using a field, a method on a field, right? Rather than just using the number. So one of the things you have to get used to in SnarkyJS is using fields everywhere. So declaring new variables as fields and making sure that you use the built-in methods to do operations on them. So that's kind of the initialization and describing the on-chain state. Now, what we have here underneath is a method, right? So it's this decorator at method. Smart contracts are built up of methods. They're like kind of function calls in other blockchain programming paradigms. And so a method will take in some arguments, and then it will have, it will kind of do some computation, and then the outputs are it will make a change to some on-chain state, or it will change some other state somewhere else that you've got, right, in like a database or a web page or whatever. But the on-chain state stuff is the stuff that you can track and verify and prove using SnarkyJS, right? So this method is called update, and so as the title of the smart contract would suggest, it's called add. What this method does is it adds a number to the state. So what it's saying here is the current state is getting from num, and so in previous versions of SnarkyJS, and indeed maybe in some of the docs, this thing here, this bit here might have been split into 2 lines. So it would be like a get line where it would get this value, and then it would do like an assert on the second line. This has actually been bundled up into one method now called get and assert equals. So that's pretty cool. But basically that's something that you kind of need to remember to do as well, is that when you grab state from on chain, when you create something called a precondition, but basically you have to put in a double check. You do a get and then you assert equals, right? So you put into the smart contract that whoever is running it has to make sure that the variable that they have in what they got is the same as the on-chain state, right? So it's like a double check. So here it's just saying get and assert equals, which is a nice convenient way to do it. And so it'll say here as well, adding a precondition which the verifying Mina node will check before accepting this transaction. So that's just making sure that the variables, the data that people are using actually correspond to the on-chain state, which is on the blockchain network. So then we're going to say there's a constant which is new state. Again, this is a field, right? And so all it's doing here is saying current state dot add to. So it's using the inbuilt add operator on a field type, and it's saying we're going to add to. So then it's saying we're going to set this state variable num to new state. So we've just added to. So this is a very basic operation to do, but it's basically, it's demonstrating to you how you kind of initialize a smart contract with this init function. It's saying, here's how you store state on the blockchain using the state variables. And it's saying, here's how you can update that state, right? So
it's pretty crazy how simplistic this is in order to, how easy this, SnarkyJS or TS, incoming proposal, makes this. But I mean, yeah, it's the ability to deploy so quickly in such short code is pretty awesome. Are there any other major nuances? One of the nuances I think, or not a nuance, but a little value add that I kind of picked up in this conversation was IntelliSense is very well integrated in this. And all of these details they're all provided inside the docs. So I can quickly kind of figure out how I'm supposed to, write my SnarkyJS in my my add.ts file in order to make sure the deployment is done in the most simplistic way as possible. And then, is there any other major value adds that you want to add for people that may be participating in the hackathon?
I would say that I don't think I have a good example lined up, but I can try and get hold of one or create one and share it in the next day or two. But one of the things that is really cool that you can do is this idea of recursion. So you can create a kind of a zkApp method that will take in a proof that has already been created as an argument to create a new proof. So you can kind of create your own chains of proofs to allow participants to basically pass these proofs between each other and do things. And this could be off chain as well. So you can kind of have participants who, with your zkApp logic, they can all verify that they're doing things in a valid way, and pass the proofs around between them, and they don't necessarily have to go to the blockchain. So as a developer, you can decide, okay, well, I'm going to run a chess game, or a turn-based game, or some kind of. We had a guy who entered a hackathon who did a really cool implementation of like state channels, where you could kind of have a state channel between people and send things back and forth, and you only had to resolve this state channel when you wanted to close it. Or you could kind of say, I'm going to put a checkpoint every 10 turns. We're going to update the state and kind of publish the digest of the game onto the blockchain. Or you could play the whole game offline and just produce the result off chain, and then put the result on chain. So there's a number of really cool things that you can do with recursion, and the code part of it is actually the easy part, right? There's a module called zkProgram, and it makes it fairly easy to kind of construct these kind of configure these proofs and passing them in and generating new proofs. It's actually the thinking about how to apply it to problems, which is usually the harder part that we've seen people kind of take a while. But then once that aha moment happens, then people think it's a really, really cool feature to use. So I would say recursion is definitely something that is a big value add, as you said.
So I think I'm going to just go ahead and drop that as like a possible alpha kind of ideas. Like if you could create a solid hackathon submission using recursion with Mina Protocol, I'm thinking that's going to be a pretty strong pretty strong submission, because there's a lot of things you could probably do with that. If I were to go into this after watching this, I'd probably use some sort of state of recursion in my submission. That's probably what I would do.
Yes, I think that's a good way to look at it.
Do you want to go ahead and, I know we're at the top of the hour, but do you want to go through the deck at all? I know there's been a little bit of conversation on the deck and just some visual aspects and everything of how SnarkyJS and everything work, and then we'll close out from there with any possible questions. For those that may still have questions or anything like that, feel free to post the questions in the comments, and we'll get to those after we go over the last bit of the deck.
So how much time do we have left? Are we supposed to be finishing on the hour?
It's honestly, it's up to you. I mean, if you've got a little bit of time extra, there's not a really big deal of going over time. Typically what I like to do at the end of this is I'm actually going to take some of this video and actually cut it down so that we can have some, really solid gold nuggets and everything, and then be able to provide those gold nuggets on, various channels with Twitter and YouTube as well.
Okay. So first of all,
so if we got any more gold nuggets possible to drop, and that might be in the deck or anything like that, I'd love to see it.
So I think the deck will take probably 20 or 30 minutes to go through, which I can do.
Okay. Okay.
I think so. Just in case anyone was watching with the intention of leaving now and not staying on later, I will just show you quickly what it looks like. I think.
Sure.
Let me just pull up a window that I had. So we activated. So we just looked through the smart contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
The add smart contract, and I'm gonna see. Okay, I might need to go to my history, because I closed the. I closed the console window that I had, right? oh, here we go. That had the link to the transaction in it, right? So what I will do though is I will close this. I'm going to present a tab quickly just to show you. Here we go. So if you remember, what we did was we deployed the app.
Might need to size up just a little bit. Sorry, the text is a little small for the viewers.
Yes, I will do.
Yeah.
So you know what, actually, so essentially, I think maybe I'm skipping a step here. Actually, I might go back. Hold on, I'm going to stop screen.
That's fine.
I'm going to present the code quickly. Again.
As you're doing that, just go through another update for those that might be popping in pretty late. Just so you know, we are going to be starting the Developer Down Mina Protocol Hackathon tomorrow. And so if you want to actually participate, make sure that there's a form in the comments. Select the link, make sure that you get into the proper channel so that you're available for the office hours. And there's also a document that's linked in there as well. So if you want to see the actual details of the hackathon, how the $10,000 worth of pool prize is broken down, go to that link as well, review the details and review the requirements for submission. There we go. Go ahead.
Awesome. Thanks, Patrick. So
yep.
I've kind of my thoughts now. So where we left off with the console was we deployed the zkApp, right? And then we took a look at the smart contract. There's also, when you create a project using zk project, this script, which is called interact.ts. Now you call this, right, with this command here, which is, and this is in all the kind of tutorials and docs and everything. You call it with node, you go into the directory, which is build source interact.js, and then you use your deploy alias, which was Berkeley, or I used Berk earlier. So when you run that, it says, it runs this script here. We'll take a quick look at it. I don't think I'm going to run it in the console because it kind of, I don't know. Yeah, I might do that or I might not, but this is a script which uses modules from SnarkyJS, including the Mina module. And so what this is basically doing is it's taking information out of the config file and it's setting some things up like the keys. So that developer key that I talked about earlier that I got the testnet tokens on. Just to note as well, this is for demonstration purposes. So if you have private keys of any kind, especially blockchain private keys, don't store them locally in plain text. This is for development purposes. If you're doing anything anywhere near production, you have to take care of your private keys in an appropriate way. But this is basically, this script is setting up the code here, which is setting the config data that you gave to set up the Mina network that you're kind of sending the transaction to, which is the Berkeley testnet. And it's saying the zkApp you're using is this add smart contract that's in the source folder as well. And so then this bit at the end is saying, right, what we're doing is we're going to compile the smart contract. We're going to call the smart contract and we're going to create a transaction which is going to be paid for by the fee payer address, which is that kind of dev wallet that I was talking about earlier. And it's going to say we're going to use zkApp update, which is the method that we're calling. If you had written your own method, then the arguments would be here as well. And so then what we're going to do, once we create the transaction, it's going to prove the transaction. So it says here, it generates the proofs for the transaction. And then it's going to send that transaction to the network. And so then we can just see the output here, so I'm not going to run it. It'll say success, update transaction sent. Your smart contract state will be updated as soon as the transaction is included in a block, and it'll give you a handy link to the block explorer for your transaction, right? So it'll put your transaction hash in there. So this interact script is there to show you how you can interact with your zkApp when it's live. There are other ways to interact with zkApps, including obviously you can create like an application, for example, using React, but you can use other frameworks as well that use the SnarkyJS, these SnarkyJS modules, right, to generate and send transactions. And you can also use there's third-party wallets. At the moment, I think it's only one of them called Oro, which supports the smart contract layer on Berkeley. But you can use there's a wallet that you can use to do the kind of inject to do the key management, the signing, and then inject signatures into the application. So there is an example, like a tutorial with some example code that shows an implementation which uses React and Oro wallet to basically do this add smart contract, but it's a bit much to go through on like a live demo. But we can certainly, you know, link to that. And obviously, you're all very resourceful people, so you can find your way to the tutorial section on the docs as well. And so that is the interact script. I thought I would show you as well, just quickly. I'm going to stop sharing my VS Code and I'm going to present another tab, which is this one. And this was the one that you said I should increase the size of. Let's take a look at this. Is that good?
Perfect.
I can't really see.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. That looks good.
So this is what the transaction looks like on the Mina Explorer, Block Explorer. There's a bunch of data, right, which all has its place. But the relevant stuff that I was wanting to show you was here we have the preconditions, and we have what's called the update here, the account update. So this is what I was saying earlier, right? This is the state of, so you get these 8 field variables that you can use to store state, and it's saying you have to have a precondition here, so you have to get the state, and it has to be 3. So then this bit here, sorry, this kind of raw JSON is quite difficult to navigate sometimes. So then what you're saying here is the update. So this is like once you've run the method, it creates this thing called an account update, and it's saying the app state and the account update will now change to, and you've added 2 in that add smart contract that we looked at. So now the app state is going to be updated, and this state variable that we have here is going to be increased to 5. So that's the kind of end result. This is transaction is saying we're changing that 3 to 5. So this is how you can kind of just to show you what this account update looks like. This is what gets included in the transaction, and all of these things obviously have a meaning, and you can go through the docs and see what they are. But that's the state here that you change as a result of running these methods, right? So I think if I quit this window, it will stop sharing.
Yep.
So that's the end result of the kind of the example that we're looking at, the add smart contract. So I just wanted to show that. Also, someone here, TT, asked, can you elaborate on the verification process? Verification key again. So verification key is similar to a private key that only the contract deployer knows and can utilize to verify if contract premise is true, false. No, that's not really what is happening. The verification key is a cryptographic artifact. It's not really a key. but you kind of, we call it a key because it helps people to think about what it's used for. But the verification key is used to verify proofs, okay? When you create a program with SnarkyJS and you do the kind of the build step, it creates the verification key for your SnarkyJS code. So you send that that verification key to the network, right? And so the way that you send to the network is via a transaction which you sign with a public-private key pair, right? So only your zkApp account, which has a key pair, can update, can deploy or update the verification key. So the developer or the contract deployer has a private key that they can use to deploy the verification key or change the verification key. But, and then, so then everyone can see the verification key. The verification key is public, right? You can only produce valid proofs that will verify with that verification key if you use the original code, right? So you can change the code, but then it'll change the verification key and the proof won't be valid. So I can't just run a zkApp and say I've got 1 million tokens, right? Because it wouldn't match the verification key. So the contract deployer has a private key which they use to send the verification key. The verification key, anyone can see, it's on the network. And that's the Mina nodes use that to verify proofs that people have used the zkApp in a valid way.
Okay, perfect. I think that covers all our questions. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover before we closed out?
Me? No. Apart from, I can do the slides now, or we can kind of find a time that I can present them on the Discord server or something.
Actually, if you want, I would be more than happy to do a second run for recording on the slides, unless there was something very, very pertinent that you felt like was really important to the hackathon participants that is within the slides, because I do want to make sure that they do get all relevant information before participating.
Yes, there is something which is pertinent, which I will.
Perfect.
I'm just having a quick look through. I think the most pertinent slide is like second to last, right? And I've got it up. So here we go.
Alrighty.
If I click slideshow, will that come up? Yes.
You're up.
That is a QR code, which I think if you scan will take you to the Mina Protocol Discord server. This is the information, the main information that I would give to hackathon participants. I hope you enjoyed the walking through the code. Obviously, we're very excited to be supporting the hackathon, and here are the places you can go to get more information and to get support. So I've mentioned the tutorials a fair bit, and obviously there's documentation, which is at docs.minaprotocol.com. Obviously, you can use a search engine of your choice to navigate there as well, but I think the docs are probably the first place to go if you want to find information. There's a search bar, and the tutorials are kind of broken into certain features or aspects of SnarkyJS that you can learn by going through one of those tutorials. So that's a great place to go and to kind of work through things in a kind of sequential manner. The Mina Discord server is available at discord.gg/Mina Protocol, or there are links to it on our website, or we will, I'm sure, be kind of linking to it in the Developer DAO Discord channel as well. We have a Q&A channel. So we use the Discord Q&A forum formats, and it's called zkApps dash questions. And so we have a lot of people who are in there who are really knowledgeable, really helpful, really responsive. So you can ask questions in there. And there's also a feature now as well where if you type anything into the kind of the question bar, it'll kind of do a wee search for you. So that's a good place as well if you have particular error messages that you're seeing, or a question that you want answered, if you search for it in there before, there's a chance that someone's already asked it, and there might already be some information that you can use to get an answer for your question without even having to post it and wait for people to answer it. We also have office hours in the Mina Discord server, so we run them on Wednesdays. There's one time slot at 9 a.m. and one at 5 p.m. British time. So that's like
I think it's
10
UTC minus
Eastern,
one, something like that. Yeah.
So, but also if you go onto the Discord server, it's they're hosted on Discord. So the events thing at the top, if you click on events, it'll show you what time they are, local time. So I think, yes. So if you go onto our Discord server and click events, you'll be able to see what time it is for you. You can DM me on Twitter. I'm at blockchainbeard on Twitter. You can also follow me on there. I mainly retweet stuff, but sometimes I make some memes and people seem to enjoy them. And there is, on the developer DAO Discord, there's a channel which is hashtag join hackathons. And that is also, and there's kind of like a number of sub bits of that channel, and you just click on the Mina Protocol one. That's where we're going to be, interacting. And I will obviously be active there, keep an eye out and see if people are asking questions, things that I can help with. And we're also going to be doing some office hours on the developer DAO Discord server. So they're the main places to get support if you need it, and more info.
Perfect. Angus, thank you so much. I'm going to run through the hackathon details just one more time, just so everybody understands what's going on. Tomorrow, June 27th, Tuesday, we're starting a 1-week fully remote hackathon, and submission deadline is going to be midnight UTC, Tuesday, July 4th. Okay. The judges are going to be the Mina team, and as well as Angus, the DevRel of Mina here. And the prizes, overall winners, it's a full prize pool of $10,000 USDC. The overall winners are going to be broken down to first, second, and third. First place will get $1,000 USDC plus 2,500 Mina token. Second place will get 800 USDC, 2,000 Mina token, and third place will get 500 USD plus 1,000 Mina token. Other prize pools include 2 different prize pools. It's a top 3 technical blogs and top 3 starter kits. Top 3 will receive 200 USDC plus 300 Mina token, and the top starter kits will get 200 USDC, 300 Mina token as well. There is a code pool from the developer DAO where all verified submissions will split a total code pool of 5,000 USDC code token, and non-developer DAO members who submit will receive 400 code token, which is the equivalent of free access to developer DAO. So we require to access the developer DAO community 400 code token. So if you actually submit as a non-member of developer DAO, you basically will get free access to developer DAO, which is awesome. Just hang on to that, use that. You'll be able to access the developer DAO community with the 400 code token, which is awesome. Now for office hours, there will be 3 specific office hours for this hackathon. It'll be Wednesday, June 28th at 1 p.m. EST or 6 p.m. UTC. Friday, Friday 30th, June 30th is 1 p.m. EST. Sorry, it might be 5 p.m. I'm doing my math wrong. 5 p.m. UTC. And then Monday, July 30th, the day before, will be 1 p.m. EST / 5 p.m. UTC. And the last bits, I think that covers everything. The last thing that I want to cover is saying that the submission guidelines will be. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Getting some weird audio, but let's see. Just to close out, the last bit will be for the submission guidelines. It's MIT license is required for all submissions and must have a README explaining what your code does in the README file of your GitHub, and then repos must be public upon submission so that everybody can view it and review it and decide, your placement within the hackathon. Any closing comments, Angus?
No, apart from thank you very much for having me. It's been great. Good luck, everyone. And please reach out if you have any questions or you want to find out more.
Awesome. We're going to go ahead and close it out. Thank you so much for attending, everybody.